World War I, also known as the Great War, was a global conflict that took place between 1914 and 1918. The war involved the major world powers of the time, including Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, the United States, France, Russia, and the United Kingdom, among others. It was one of the deadliest wars in history, resulting in millions of casualties and changing the course of world history. This script will provide an in-depth analysis of the events leading up to the war, the causes of the war, the major battles and campaigns, and the aftermath of the war. Part 1. Background and causes of World War I. In the early 20th century, tensions were high among the major world powers, particularly in Europe. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary by a Serbian nationalist in 1914 was the spark that ignited the war. However, there were several underlying causes that contributed to the outbreak of war. One of the primary causes of the war was nationalism. European nations were fiercely nationalistic and were competing with each other for power and prestige. This led to a buildup of military forces and arms, as each nation sought to protect its own interests and maintain its status. Another major cause of the war was the complex system of alliances that existed among the major powers. The Triple Entente, consisting of France, Russia, and the United Kingdom, was formed in 1907 as a response to the growing power of Germany. In response, Germany formed the Triple Alliance with Austria-Hungary and Italy. This system of alliances created a delicate balance of power that could easily be upset by a single event. The arms race between the major powers was also a contributing factor to the outbreak of war. Each nation was building up its military forces and stockpiling weapons, which only increased tensions and made war more likely. Finally, there was a growing sense of imperialism among the major powers. European nations were expanding their empires and competing for control of colonies and territories around the world. This competition for resources and power further increased tensions and made war more likely. Part 2. Major battles and campaigns. The war began in August 1914 when Germany invaded Belgium and Luxembourg, in an attempt to quickly defeat France before Russia could mobilize its forces. The Schlieffen Plan, as it was called, was a failure, and the war quickly turned into a stalemate along the Western Front. In the east, the Russian army launched several offensives against Austria-Hungary, but these were largely unsuccessful. The Russians suffered a major defeat at the Battle of Tannenberg in August 1914, which forced them to retreat. In 1915, the Allies launched an unsuccessful campaign to capture the Dardanelles, a strategic waterway that connected the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. The campaign was a failure, and the Allies suffered heavy losses. The war in the East continued to be a stalemate, with both sides suffering heavy losses. However, in 1917, the Russian Revolution led to the withdrawal of Russia from the war, which allowed Germany to focus its forces on the Western Front. In 1918, the Allies launched a major offensive on the Western Front, which ultimately led to Germany's defeat. The war ended on November 11, 1918, with the signing of the Armistice of Compiègne. Part 3. Aftermath of World War I. The aftermath of World War I had a profound impact on the world. The war had been a brutal and costly conflict, resulting in millions of casualties and the destruction of entire cities and communities.